scientist, and I actually had an opportunity to attend a similar talk given by her a year or so ago, and it really helped me figure out a bunch of stuff, especially edit my resume, and I did get an internship out of it. So I hope you make the most of this event.
Thanks for the intro. So today I'm going to talk about resume workshop. Please, let's make this interactive. This is not meant to be a class style workshop. I really encourage question. And so to kind of get you a sense of a motivation for why working on your resume is important, I want to tell you guys a little bit about my own experience. So I did my PhD at BU in the math department, so right next door to you guys. And in my third year of my PhD, I decided I wanted to do an internship. And these are all the companies I applied through their web portal at the time. And I was very confident that with a PhD in statistics, I had a pedigree that would, attract all those people. And I was just very, very disappointed and sad that I actually got very, very little amount of response. And the amount of response is this. Those are the 3 companies at the time that I heard of. So that's less than 15% answer rate. And this was quite of a slap in my face, because I thought that if I had the right degree and that I, knew my homework well, obviously companies would be very interested to talk to me and that I would be able to get an internship position, but it was really not true. Move forward, I'm now a 4th year PhD student, and those are the companies that I applied to at the time. And those are the companies I heard back from. So from one year to the next, I had a 5%, I increased my response rate by 5-fold, which is a big, big bump. And so what I want to talk to you today about is what happened between that first year and that second year. Well, first, I did get an internship, so that did help, but I don't think that was really the big trigger. In my opinion, the big trigger was twofold. The first one is that my resume went from this to this. And so we're not going to dive into the detail quite right away, but at a first glance, I hope you agree that this is a much more appealing resume. This is something you want to look into. And so that's kind of the purpose of this workshop, is trying to help you guys go from this type of resume to that type of resume. And so I will dive into this. But so that's going to be the meat of our workshop, but I also want to leave you with one more advice, and I'll have one slide on it if we have time. The second thing on top of your resume that I believe matter tremendously is networking. So those are all the companies at the time that I heard of. And 40% of the company I heard of, I had been referred by somebody. It means that I had talked with someone at the company and they had put in my resume. And so I do believe that both things combined, networking and improving my resume, really, really helped there. So at the end of the workshop, if we still have time, I will talk about networking very briefly. But since I was invited today to talk about working on your resume, this is what I'm going to be talking about. All right, so I've been in the field for 3 years now. And being now on the hiring end of the spectrum, I can say it's very enlightening to understand how persons read a resume. And I wished I had known better when I was on the applying end of the pipeline. And I'm going to tell you how we read resumes. We do it begrudgingly. We are machine learning data scientist people. We want to build models, we want to look at features, we want to code. We are not particularly excited about the hiring part of our job. It is important, but that is not what is driving us. And so if you understand that, yes, so we do it between 2 meetings when the deadline was yesterday. And one more thing to understand is that when we read a resume, there are actually studies that show, and I will concur with them, that we read them in less than 8 seconds. So if I see a resume, I'm going to give a really quick scan at it. And in 8 seconds, I can say whether or not I want to find out more about that person. This 8-second rule is true for what I call the first scan. So in a very, very quick fashion, I'm going to go over a resume. And if I see what I like, then I'm going to do a second scan and actually spend a bit of time reading that resume to see whether I want to talk with this person. But if I don't like what I see in 8 seconds, I'm not going to give it a second read. And so really, guys, you kind of have a one-time shot. In those 8 seconds, you need to basically show the trailer of the movie so that the person wants to look at the movie. And so we're gonna play a little game here. Guys, I'm gonna give you 7 seconds and I'm gonna ask somebody to tell me what they got out of my resume. Ready, go. Okay, stop, guys. This is over. Can I get a volunteer to tell me what is it they took out of my resume in 8 seconds? This is the first resume I sent out. And there's no bad answer. I'm just curious to hear someone tell me what they get in 8 seconds out of this resume.
I'll volunteer.
Okay.
I got that you did some work on the gene causing a visual impairment, and you worked on atmospheric dispersion, and you're related to BU doing some consulting.
Thanks. Anyone wants to give it a go? All right, I won't grill you because there's going to be more pop quiz, so I'll save my wild card of naming people later. Thanks, Jenna, for volunteering your answer. So yeah, you got what I kind of had in bold. And what is interesting is that if you think about what is it you mentioned, it doesn't really tell us very much about whether I'm qualified for the position, in my opinion. I will also add a few more things about this. So I think when I look at this resume, interestingly, I think that about 40% of my first page, I basically say nothing. There's a lot of white space here. I tell you, my email address, but this doesn't have to take so much space. There's my education, but like, it's a lot of space for saying not very much. I could probably chunk that in like a fraction of that page. And yet I've really used 40% of my page for this. The second thing that I think is pretty negative is that I have those big bulk paragraphs. And I was basically doing mini cover letters with each experience, which, guys, you don't need to express in details the content of your project in your resume. This can be discussed in an interview. So you really want to just give the very high points, the main points. Here, what do I have? So actually, when I hire for a position, something that is crucial to me is what are your programming skills, the tech stack you're familiar with. So at the time, I didn't have any tech stack. I only had some coding languages, but they're buried at the bottom of the page. And when I recruit for interns, I also care about which course they took that are relevant for the position. And if you look, the course that I took there on the second page here. And some people might make it to the second page, but you really have to make it all the way there to see that I had a course in machine learning and that I did Monte Carlo simulation. And so the relevant material, what might attract an employer in hiring you as an intern or a full-time position is really buried in my resume. You have to go get it. And another thing is that I have about half a page of recommenders. And I thought it would, at the time, I thought it would impress a recruiter that I had, professors willing to vouch for me. But the truth is, no one's asked me for recommenders in internship search or full-time job search. I assume that if they wanted to have some, then they, would ask for them. So it's not really useful to include them at this point. We can ask for them if we want them. Okay. And so really with this resume, I made a really hard job on the recruiter to extract the information of why I am a qualified candidate. And the key takeaway is that you might be a very qualified candidate. We have never met you. And so it is really your job, guys, to help the person reviewing your resume understand why you are the right person for the job. It is solely on your shoulders at this point. So yeah, help them. All right, so I'm going to talk about resume etiquette a little bit. I want to put a disclaimer. It's not rocket science. I'm not going to tell you anything you have never heard before, but sometimes it's good to see them all in one place. And as you will see, I missed a lot of them in my first resume. And so I hope that, kind of like summarizing them all here will help you guys. So your resume has to be concise. We need to get the information very quickly. My suggestion, one page only. And if you guys are a graduate student, I think what I call a bonus page is okay. And I will talk about the content of the bonus page later, but otherwise I think everything should hold on one page. It should be visually comfortable. As I said, we spend very little time reading resumes. So you wanted to make it as easy as possible for the reviewer. And one of my friends, she asked me to review her resume, and the first thing I told her is I don't even want to read it. It was full, like there was not a single space on her resume. She had stuffed every line as much as she could. And I told her, I actually don't even want to read your resume. It's painful. So make it visually comfortable. And you can do so by simple things, having bullets, making sure it's aligned. You don't want to have inconsistent margins. You want to have consistent polygon font. And again, it's not that we're going to reject an applicant if his font change from one line to the next, but it's just those little details that subconsciously will help. And you want to make the information easy to extract. In 7 seconds, here are the things that a reviewer should be able to take away. I should be able to take away your relevant experience. So, and the experience needs to answer the what was the job, where was it, when was it, and how was it? Like, what did you do there, basically? I need to get your skill set. Things like programmation languages, tech stack. I need to get your relevant coursework. That's for if you're applying to an internship or fresh new grad position. This is less so relevant when it's your second job. So relevant jobs are coursework or things like linear models, intro to NLP, C++, anything that could be useful for the position. And I should be able to get your education. So degree, institution, graduation date. Something I want to mention is that when I talk about relevant experience, I want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be industry experience. Especially in the field of machine learning and data science, where our job is to take a data set and build models. What we want to see is, have you guys ever been exposed to a problem where you take a model, a data, maybe do some feature engineering. Usually you don't in school, but maybe you've done some things with the missing values. Maybe you've done some discretization. Maybe you've bucketized, and then you've fed it to some model. And it's perfectly acceptable that that your experience is a school project that was asked in one of your class. It is totally acceptable. It is, and it is rare in your position to have industry experience. So if you don't, I would really, really encourage you to put the class project where you actually manipulated data, because that's what we want to see. Do I have any questions? Okay. So I went through another iteration of my resume, and we're gonna play the game again. What can you guys, let's take 7 seconds, and then someone's gonna tell me what they get out of the resume. All right, go. Stop. Can a volunteer that is not Jenna tell me what they got out of the resume? Come on, guys.
I guess I'll go.
All right.
Okay, so I see a lot of relevant experience. I don't have time to read all of it, but I did see it was a lot, covering most of the page, and I could only kind of peek over the 3 languages that you speak and your interests.
Okay, so you made it to the second page, but in 7 seconds, I think what you saw is that you should have read that I was a junior statistician, that I was a data scientist intern, that I was a data scientist volunteer, that I was a statistical lead, and the only wait, what is this? Yeah, and something interesting is that you didn't mention my programming languages. And so let's see, what do I say here? So here, what is good is that compared to the previous resume, what I find to be the most relevant information is on the first page. So all my experience is here, my coursework is here. So this is what we care about, and it's all on the first page. So there's been a big improvement. The second improvement is that you quickly get my education. It's the first line. I'm a PhD candidate in statistics, so you get that. You also get the experience. A lot less dense. I personally, I hope you agree that I find it a lot less like bulky. You might have a different opinion, but that's mine, that it's a lot more visually pleasing. That was done by the help of bullets. Okay, now here are a few comments on this resume, in my opinion. Something that I would advise to do differently is that I would move my experience higher up, because here is how someone, so when I say I would move my experience higher up, I mean I would put relevant experience above education. And here's the reason why. When I read this resume, the first thing I see is PhD candidate in statistics at Boston University. And then I see my experience. Is PhD candidate in statistics at Boston University a game changer? I guess it depends of where you're applying. and for what position. But the position I was applying to are things like Facebook, Google, Twitter, and all those companies, even TripAdvisor. The year I got my internship with them, there was 700 candidates. Everyone has a very nice pedigree. Being from Boston University, when you compare to that pool, is not your main advantage. And I say that with all the pride that I have for the university, because I love my alma mater. But the pool you're competing with, guys, you have to understand is Harvard, Yale, MIT, Columbia University, Stanford. Those are your competition. Does Boston University impress me compared to those universities? No. And so when I read this resume, this is not going to impress me. What's going to impress me is the hands-on experience that the student has had. And so that's my suggestion is, if you come from Boston University, like, move up your experience, because that's what's going to set you apart from the other candidates. If you apply to the non-big tech, where there's less competition, or for instance, if you apply in pharma or in the insurance industry field, I think it's less true what I'm stating. But if you apply for all the big tech companies, there's so much competition that Boston University is not what's going to set you apart. This is my humble opinion. There are some purists about how to build a resume that will tell you that you should always put your education first. So I just want to make it very clear here that what I'm giving you guys are suggestions. In the end, it's up to you to make what you want of them. But that's how I read the resume. And then the second thing that I want to mention is that, okay, my skills, they could have been better emphasized. So compared to my first resume, it's much better because it's been brought up, it's now here. But Arushi, you didn't mention them, which shows that I still didn't do the best job at highlighting those skills. So there's still a bit of room for improvement. And as you can see, the second page as de-densified, which is pretty good. So at this point, nowadays, if I see a resume like this, I will say the following: I'm interested. This is a major step up compared to the first resume. And this is a resume that, this is a resume that piques my curiosity. And so, yeah, at that point, I will have given the first scan. I saw the student as relevant experience, nice background. I'm going to do now what I call the second scan. And so the second scan is a deeper read, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Do you guys see my screen? It kind of pops. Does it disappear for you guys? It doesn't? Okay, so it must be my connection. So on the second scan, here are the things I read on the second scan. So I like to put a brief summary of me and of the person and the objective. And so I would encourage you guys to have one at the top. So who you are, what is it you're looking for? Because sometimes we receive resume, I don't know, are you looking for a full-time? Are you looking for a summer internship? What is it you're looking for here? You need to tell me. Yeah, then when we move on to the relevant experience, what I suggest is to always start, so a few bullets. The first bullet, a brief description of the task at hand. No machine learning, no data science. It should be something as simple as build a music classifier. So explain the task at hand. And then explain how you solved it. So it would have been developed a music classifier, built a logistic regression, performed feature generation, did dimension reduction. So you use bullets to express a thought on each line. Make sure to use active words. I built, I developed. You want to avoid terms such as I assisted, I helped. because it makes it sound like you are not leading your project. So make it sound like you are proactive in the project. If possible, includes keywords you found in the job description. One of the reasons is that most likely the first person that's going to see your resume is a recruiter. And a recruiter doesn't have a background in machine learning and data science. They know the bare bone minimum. And so the example I like to give is if they ask you, if they put in the job description, prefer candidates who have experience in survival analysis, and that in your resume you have a project where you did survival analysis, but you go kind of in the weeds and you say, build a Kaplan-Meier plot, which is a tool in survival analysis. So you kind of went specific. The recruiter might not know that the Kaplan-Meier plot belongs to the field of survival analysis. So if in the job description there's for survival analysis, I would encourage you to use that term so that the recruiters understand that that's what you did. If your resume makes it directly to the manager's pile because someone recommended you, it's a different conversation. Those people should have the background to understand this. But if you're applying through a job portal, you might want to make it easy on the recruiter to come to the conclusion that you're qualified. Something that I would, I think I did a poorly copy paste here. So let's just focus on hobbies and awards. I would encourage you to put your awards because it shows, you know, someone acknowledge the fact that you are very qualified in your field. But I would also encourage you to add the hobbies. And the reason why I would do that is that at the end of each interview, when you've gone through the technical questions, usually the conversation kind of relaxes, and it might go on you might ask questions about the company, but they might also, I've had a lot of interviews where people mention my hobbies and they're like, oh, I see that you like scuba diving. I'm a scuba diver too, and let's talk about this. And then it brings the conversation to a more leisurely place. And at that point in the conversation, the interviewer is basically assessing you for the fit in the team. And so I find that including hobbies in your resume, at least in my resume, has been a conversation starter for a more friendly type of conversation. There is a book that I encourage you guys to read. It's Cracking the Coding Interview. It was written by a software engineer at Google. And I think she prefaced the book by making a bold statement, which I personally back up. She says, in the end, in the interview, what they want to see is whether they would have a beer with you or not. And I think it's true because you spend most of your time with your colleagues. And so assessing the chemistry of, are we gonna be getting along? Are we gonna have a good working relationship is important. I've seen a lot on job description, no brilliant jerks. Sometimes you can be very brilliant, but if you're if you're very difficult to work with, then you can ruin a team. I will say that you can be super sweet, it won't make us hire you. So being a nice person is not enough, but if you're a nice person and you're good, then you're kind of gold. And so that's why I like adding hobbies to my resume. It's because it brings you to this place where you're assessing something else than your skills. The bonus page. So I teased about it earlier on. This is mostly for people who've done research or grad work. So if you have publications, I encourage you to put them on your bonus page. If you have talks and presentation you've given, those are good to put there. If you have teaching experience, I think it's good. So those are things that I think are okay on the bonus page. All right, so here I want to show you. So I started at TripAdvisor as an intern, and then I got a return offer, and this is the job offer that not the job offer, the job description that they had. And so I highlighted what I think were kind of the important words here. So they said they're the largest travel site in the world. That tells me what they're doing. They use data science technique that include predictive modeling and machine learning. They build models. So I want to pause on the fact that they build models. This is something I didn't realize when I was in your shoes. There is an extreme wide discrepancy in what it means to do data science from one company to the next. In terms, if you apply for a machine learning position, there's slightly less variance, but if you apply for a data science position, it could mean one thing in one company and it could mean something very different in another company. I know that I have friends that have applied to data science roles where they ask them to just do analysis, build plots. It's very different than building models. And so here, when I see in the position that they want to build models, it tells me this is what I want to do. When we don't build models, it's closer to what I would call a business analyst. So a person that has access to some data, does some SQL queries, but doesn't build models. But from one company to the next, it means very different things. So when you apply and when you interview, I would encourage you to clarify this. Because I can tell you, I have friends who are data scientists now that are not happy because they are not doing what they thought they would be doing. And that's because there's a very, very large spectrum of what it means. All right, moving on to the next word. Extract, transform, load. So that's meaning doing some feature engineering. They want someone with a bachelor or a master degree, experience in R and Python, ideally, SQL, Hive, Spark, and online auction, A/B testing, digital advertising. So those are kind of the keywords that I highlighted. And note, I have a tip for you. Save the job description of every job you apply to, every single one of them. Note that this is from 3 years ago. And so I still have it. And the reason why I encourage you guys to apply to save the job description is twofold. The first one is to prevent awkward conversation with recruiters. It is not rare that you might apply to a couple internship in the same company, and they're in different teams. And sometimes it's not the same recruiter hiring for those two positions, and they're going to ask you, why are you applying for this position? And you don't remember the difference between internship 1 and 2. And so now you can refer to it because you have the job description. So that's actually, when I say you have applied to 2 jobs in the same company, that's the sweet scenario. But if you apply to 20 positions in 20 different companies, you might not even remotely remember what the job was like for that particular company because you've just applied to them all. And they love to believe that they're your favorite one and that they are exactly what you wanted. But the truth is, there are a lot of cool companies out there we would all be happy to work for. And, we just cannot remember every single job application we apply to. So saving the description is helpful to prevent awkward conversation with recruiters. In addition, it's a really good reference point when preparing for interviews. Because here, for instance, they mention A/B testing. So it means it's important to them. And so it's very possible that during the interview, they're going to ask you questions that revolves around A/B testing. They're never going to tell you, let's do some A/B testing, but they might ask you a question where the answer is A/B testing. And so it's a really good way to help prepare for the interview. I just changed job. I am now working at Twitter, and in the job description, it was written that it was for the recommender system team. So it was to build recommender system. And so before I had my first interview, I actually spent quite a bit of time reading about recommender system to make sure that, because I knew the questions they would ask me would revolve around recommender system. And so reading the job description very carefully can help you prepare for an interview. One thing I want to, a tip I haven't written here, I want to encourage you that it has happened to me that recruiters called me out of the blue and say, Clementine, I found your resume on our company portal. I would love to have a conversation with you. Never ever accept a phone call out of the blue, because it won't make you any justice. If a recruiter calls you without first sending you an email, you always say, I'm sorry, I'm not available right now. Can we chat tomorrow? And if you've saved the job description, then you can go review the job description and then talk to them the next day. Answering their question with no notice and no preparation, in my opinion, is not setting yourself up for success. This has happened to me rarely, but it has happened. I think it's bad etiquette on their end to call without notice, but it does happen. So that's my tip for you. You know, if it happens, don't take their call. All right, so with all those tips, that brings me to the resume that I actually did submit to TripAdvisor, and for which I got an internship and then a return offer. So what are we seeing here? What do I really like? Experience and skills dominate the resume. So you have all my experience here, and you have all my skills. And so I think you can get everything very quickly. What I like is that I mentioned my programming expertise level. So you can see that at the time I was, most comfortable with R, less so with Python, that I knew a little bit of MATLAB, SAS, and Scala, but you can see my different level of expertise, which is helpful because when you put all your programming skills in one line, it makes it difficult to know for the interviewer whether you're better at R or Python, at C++, but here you can clearly delineate your strengths. The personal touch, the hobbies, I've had so many good feedback about my pie charts. Almost everyone brings it up, so I recommend. I put a bit of color. I think it makes the resume much more friendly. I would encourage you to. I don't know how well received it is in fields that are, a little bit more, a little less, relaxed, like finance. I don't know how well it bodes to have color on your resume, but in tech, it's certainly okay. So if you guys want to put color, have at it. Don't put the rainbow though. Don't put all the colors in the rainbow in your resume. I use active words. I implemented, I developed, I applied, I used, I created. And then you can see some keywords. So, they were asking for candidates in statistics, computer science. So I put this. This they didn't ask for, but it's a nice tech stack to have. I said I do machine learning. It was mentioned, if you remember, in the ad. I said I use R. Here I say supervisor learning forecasting. That wasn't in the ad. And here I throw some models. And I love to travel and explore new places. This is TripAdvisor. It's an extra little touch. And so yeah, this is a resume that got me an internship at TripAdvisor. If I see a resume like this, someone would definitely have my attention. I want to talk to that person. Now, I just want to bring up a few keywords that are very looked for, thought out in the field, in tech. The type of problem you solve, is it classification, is it regression, is it clustering? The type of models you've used, so you know them, but add them to your resume. Type of feature selection tool you've used, regularization, dimension reduction, the tech stack, if you have any tech stack, Python, SQL, Hive, Spark, Hadoop, include them. Okay, one thing I want to mention regarding models especially, those are buzz keywords, things like CNN, RNN, Word2Vec, those are buzz keywords, and they do attract the eye. But be careful of what you put in your resume. Anything that you put in your resume is fair game for an interviewer to ask. And so if you put it in your resume, be ready to answer questions. I have interviewed lots of candidates for internships, and there's some behavior that for me it's a strike instantly, is if they talk about they have a project where they use a model and I ask them about it and they are incapable to answer anything about that model. So, and it's a behavior I see a lot, is students who want to show they've used the latest and most fancy model out there. So they're very proud to say they've used a recurrent neural network. But when you start asking them about it, why did you choose a recurrent neural network? I don't know. What other model could you have used instead of recurrent neural network? I don't know. What is a recurrent neural network? How does it work? I don't know. It looks terrible. To me, it shows that the person doesn't care to understand the tools they're using, which makes me wonder if maybe for this particular project it was an appropriate tool, but for the next project, are they going to be able to use the right tool? Are they going to be able to know which tool they should be using? Because they seem to just throw anything at any problem. And so if you put models on your resume, be ready to answer in-depth question about them. At least in my case, it's a no-go. Like right away, I'm gonna dismiss them from the process because I prefer someone who's used linear model but can talk very deeply about it, than someone who used deep learning and doesn't understand it at all. Because I believe that someone can learn new models, but I don't believe you can develop curiosity. If you're not a curious person, you're not gonna become a curious person. So be careful of that. Arushi, so I have one slide on networking. I know we wanted to leave some time for questions, so I'm not sure what would you prefer doing?
I would say go for it. Super important, just like the resume.
Okay, so guys, the resume is only half the battle. Someone needs to look at your resume, and the positions that you're going to be applying to are extremely, extremely competitive. I've mentioned it. Internships at TripAdvisor, on average, we get 700 candidates. And so how do you stand out of that crowd? How do you even get a recruiter to see your resume when there's 700 people applying? And my understanding is that the recruiter won't even look at 700 resumes. They might filter. You need to be from this academic institution. You need to be in this program. And so the odds of your resume being seen if you apply through a job portal in our field are very small. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's not your best bet. So how do you get your resume seen? You get somebody to put in the resume in the system for you. You get a referral. And so you need to start what we call networking. You need to start talking to people who are going to be willing to put the resume in the company's database for you. And when it's been done by an employee, it has much, much, much higher chances to be seen. And if it's been done by someone that's in the team, then, you know, definitely it's going to be seen. And so, guys, networking is crucial. And so how do you network? One recommendation is volunteer for local organizations. So for instance, volunteering for your student chapter here is a way to network. The student who's been contacting me, this is a way we're developing a relationship. Beyond the workshop, we've communicated offline. And so volunteering for local organization is a way to network. And so here are some organizations for you guys. The Association for Women in Science, the Society for Women Engineers. Less relevant for you guys, Women in Bio. GWAS at BU, the Student Association of Graduate Engineers. There's the BU, this is Bukasa, the BU chapter of the American Statistical Association. Those organizations, they organize seminars, they're gonna reach out to speakers, so they're talking with professionals in the field. And so this is a relationship, which means that when you so you connect with those professionals through informal chatter, but then when the time comes where you want to apply for an internship, you know, you already have a relationship with those people. And so it's much easier to ask them whether they can put in a good word for you than if you've never talked with them. I used to volunteer for the Association for Women in Science. I volunteered for them for 5 years, and I have contact in every company in Boston thanks to it. And for me, that was my favorite way of networking because I am uncomfortable reaching out to people for just the benefit of my professional network. This is not something I'm comfortable doing. If you guys are, I highly encourage you to do it. But if you're a little, I wouldn't say shy, but you know, it's not your jam to reach out to people asking them professional favor. Volunteering is the best thing you can do. And as I said, like by the time I was graduating, I had contacts in every company in Boston. So super useful. And then there are the other places. So you can attend local events, so hackathons. There are a lot of hackathons going on around in the East Coast because you guys, there's so many Ivy Leagues around here. They all host hackathon and all the companies go there to sponsor the event. And so I encourage you to attend hackathon because we are there. We are taking resume there. And if we see students that are attending hackathon, it shows us that they, you know, they like what they're doing. And so this is a good place to meet professionals. Career fairs, attend them. The Department of Computer Science and Engineering has a really cool career fair. I've been there. I encourage you to go. Conferences. So this is something I had no idea. Conferences have interviewing booths. So my favorite conference I've ever been to is Grace Hopper. It's for women in tech. I went in Austin a couple of years ago, and it was 20,000 women engineer, data scientists. It's a woman conference, and it's fantastic. And they literally, there is like an entire room where it's full of recruiters, and you can put yourself in the line, and then you go talk to somebody, you give them your resume. And for some companies, TripAdvisor included at the time, if we like your resume, we might give you an interview the next day at the conference. And a lot of companies are trying to bump their women numbers. And so that's places you can go where, you know, you'll be in close touch with people that are recruiting for those jobs. I will say though, you know, it's hard to attend conference as a student because it's expensive. So I think it's beneficial, but I also understand it's not possible for everyone. Spark Submit, I encourage, it's a cool conference. They do recruiting there. You can meet all the folks in the field. Open Data Science Conference, KDD, NIPS is happening right now, and Rexis. Those are some of the major conferences in our field where I don't think we're always recruiting, but every person attending there is in the field. So everyone you're going to meet there is going to be a very valuable contact. So I encourage you guys to attend conferences. Alumni gathering is a great place. And meetups. So I actually used to attend a lot of meetups. I loved it. Nowadays, it's not really possible, but when you attend local meetups, you meet like people that are in your field working in Boston, and they're fun. They're like, you learn things. It's a fun crew. All those tech meetups, they're sponsored by all the tech companies. So you're gonna get like, you know, nice food often. So yeah, I encourage you guys to attend meetups. And that's it for building a network. We could talk about networking for hours. There's, you know, it's an entire thing in itself, but I hope that I shared, I managed to convey the importance of it, because working on your resume is not enough. You now need to have like someone see it. And so networking is crucial, guys. And this is my last little piece of wisdom for you. If you have any question, I welcome them.
Hi, thank you, Clementine. It was really informative and enjoyable talk. I learned a lot, and I can compare my resume to the development that took place to yours, and I'm ready to do like couple of modification in my resume. So everyone, if you have a question to Clementine, please either raise your hand so I can unmute you, use your mic or camera if you want to, or you have the chat box if you want to ask through the chat. Do you want to challenge the audience and ask them a question?
I guess, has anyone applied for an internship and, you know, been successful, heard back? What was their experience?
So we have one question. How do you recommend undergrad students should apply for a job?
So exactly the way I just said. You find a job you like, you polish your resume, you try to find someone in the company that you could connect with. It could be a BU alum, it could be, you go on LinkedIn, do you have any remote connection with them, and you try to set up an informational chat with them, to see whether to officially ask them questions about the company, but unofficially, if the chat goes well, they might refer you for the position. So for me, that's the number one way to apply, because as I said, if you're aiming for major tech companies, there are so many applicants that it's just very hard to make yourself seen by just applying through the web portal. Something that is important noting is that you don't have necessarily to have someone in your field put in your resume. You know, if your mom, hairdresser daughter works in marketing in the company that you're interested in, and she puts your resume in, then your resume is going to be seen by a recruiter. And that's most of the battle, is getting someone to see your resume. So any point of contact in the company is a good contact. They're not all worth the same. Some are better than others, but anyone you can chat with in the company that can put in your resume is a really good contact. And I will actually say it's much easier to get someone to refer you if they're not in your field than if they are. Because here's the thing. Most people, we get, actually, if I refer someone and they get the job, I'm gonna get money from the company. It's called a referral bonus. So I'm very eager to refer people. If someone reach out to me for a position that's not in my field, what I do is that you put in the resume and you can say, what's your level of relationship with you? And you can say, I just friend of friend. And so you're letting the recruiter know, you have very little relationship with them. You're not vouching for them, but if they get hired, you're going to get a bonus. So that's for someone that's not in my field. Someone that's in my field, I'm very, very careful in which resumes I put in, because now my reputation is on the line there. I don't want to submit too many resumes. And the referral bonus becomes less relevant to me because, if I put a resume in for a position in my team and the candidate performs really poorly, it kind of diminishes my voice for future referrals. So I'm much less inclined to refer someone in my field than I am for other fields, because I don't have any voice in other fields. I have no reputation. I don't care. And so the point here, guys, any person in the company is a good point of contact. Do not neglect people that are not in your field. They're very relevant. This being said, if you get a referral from someone in the team, then this is really powerful, obviously. But I think they're much harder to get. At least mine is really hard to get if you're in my field. Because if I don't know you, if I haven't worked with you, I'm less likely to recommend you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Is it fine to hunt people on LinkedIn to find the connection?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So you are recommending such a thing?
Yeah, and so what you say, you can send. So, okay, here is the thing. Don't just befriend someone on LinkedIn. Personally, I never accept someone on LinkedIn if I don't know where they're coming from. So sometimes I have people just asking me to be a connection. Maybe I know you, at least I don't remember you. What's our connection? Arushi, for instance, she emailed me after my talk last time and she has a comment, I went to your talk, it was nice, would love to stay in touch. And obviously I accepted it because we have a relationship, we have a connection. So when you reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, try to build a connection. It could be something as simple as, I'm from the same alma mater, I'm trying to grow my network. I'd love to chat with you if you have some time. And, they can not answer. They don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's totally okay to try. But I think it's very helpful if you build a connection with the person. It's even better if you have someone making an introduction. So if, you can find a point of contact between you and the person, someone they're friends with that, then you're very likely that they're going to accept to chat with you. I have friends all the time reaching out and saying, Clem, I have this friend, she'd love to hear about your experience working at TripAdvisor, working in machine learning, what education did you get? What would you recommend to enter the field? Can I put you guys in touch? And of course, if it's my friend, I'm going to say yes. One thing I would say, and it's a tip, I don't know that it's true, but I think your best chance are with the new hires and the people that are not very important in the company yet. Because if you, there are some people, for instance, in the Boston area that are pretty famous. Like they go at every conference, they give talks at every conference, everybody knows them. If you try to get a meeting with them to chat, I can guarantee you there are 1,000 other people out there that are trying to chat with them. If you find someone that just graduated, just entered the field, no one is asking to chat with them. They're going to be super excited to tell you about their job, why they liked it. And so don't necessarily aim for the stars. Like, you know, it's not going to necessarily benefit you. Because those people are really, really busy. And so, you know, it's okay to go for the young graduates. They are probably more inclined to chat with you if they don't have a direct connection with you.
We have another question from Jenna. She's saying, do you recommend myperfectresume.com? It's an online website. The subscription is for $2.95 for 14 days. I saw outline from a one-page resume there. What did you use for a template? Oh, 1 second. If it's not one of these sites.
I used Word. But you know, whatever works for you, I think is fine. You know, $3 is not a big deal. If it gets you a cool resume out of it, it might be the best investment you've ever made. If I don't know those websites, if it's, you know, if it's easy, if it helps you make a resume really quickly, then it might totally be worth it. The one thing I would wonder though is, I have never used it, but like, can you iterate on it easily? Like, are you going to be able to import it in Word and then make changes? Or every time you're going to want to change your resume, like your resume is a bit hostage from it? I don't know.
Sure. So she's saying, yes, they do.
So they keep it? No, you can export it to Word and make changes? Okay, then maybe, yeah, I you know, I think whatever works for you is great. Something I would suggest, I didn't put, ask your friends to read your resume. They would, like, even your mom will tell you if your resume is even visually pleasing. Like, forget, like, she doesn't know data science, she doesn't know machine learning, but she'll tell you if this is painful to look at. And then your friends in your field will tell you, like, so I have a few students that I'm in close connection with at BU, and so they put their project and it's very clear to them what they did, but for someone who's never read them, it's actually not clear at all. And so asking people, you know, your classmates, your professors, to review your resume to see if someone that hasn't read your resume before will be able to understand what is it you're trying to say is very helpful. And because our field is very heavily populated by foreigners, I am a foreigner, I would also encourage you to get an English native speaker to go over your resume to make sure that there's no typo, because, you know, it also impairs the reading. I would say it's okay for me a typo here and there, but if just, like, I have actually seen resume where the sentence is grammatically so incorrect that it's actually, you don't actually understand what they're trying to say. Like, it's just bad English. It's not making you any favor, guys. So if you're a foreigner, have someone that's a native English speaker go over your resume.
Okay, one more question. Would you recommend a portfolio website? Would the recruiter have the time to view that? Or should
I don't think it hurts. I've never seen one. For internships, I don't know that I would care too much. And then when you have professional experience, I don't know that I would care too much. I also, frankly, I don't know that I would want to spend the time to go over someone's portfolio. I think that having those projects, I would recommend having 4 projects in your resume. So taking whatever you have in your portfolio and putting them in your resume in a concise manner is probably enough. For sure it doesn't hurt, for sure. But I don't know that I don't know that I would want to spend time like going into someone's portfolio, reading at their project. We can talk about one of them in their interview, and that will tell me enough, I think.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I sensed from your talk today that finding a job as a data scientist or the machine learning field is the hardest thing ever. Is that correct? Is that true?
Yes. Yes, it is true. And I can tell you that being on the hiring end, it's even harder than you think. I don't mean to scare you, but it's true. And the good news, though, is that there are things you can do to help yourself. Networking, the number one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Getting an internship. So something I want to mention is that it is much easier to get an internship than it is to get a full-time position. Because we actually cut a lot of slack to interns. We are willing to, to let go of things. So for instance, I joined TripAdvisor, I didn't know Python. I believe it is almost impossible I would have had a full-time position at TripAdvisor if I didn't know Python. And so we actually cut a lot of slack to interns. And the good news, though, is that if you do a good job in your internship, they will hire you because they want to hire qualified people. And so if you're wondering this summer, whether you should go to Florida and enjoy the beach and, you'll find a full-time job next year, I would highly encourage you to reconsider your summer plans and to actually apply for internships, because internship is the easiest way in the field, in my opinion. We are willing to forget that you don't have industry experience. We are willing to know the fact that you don't know some languages, some tech stacks, so it's the easiest way. On top of that, and I think it's important to know, there is a lot of randomness into the recruiting process or the hiring process. Here's what I'm trying to say about this. So I just went through the process. I've just transitioned from TripAdvisor to Twitter. And so I've interviewed with 4 companies, and a lot of my friends have gone through the hiring process. And the challenge I find in our field is that companies kind of want a unicorn. So I interviewed with Amazon. They want you to know everything about natural language processing. So text modeling. But unless you've worked with text modeling, you don't have that experience. I've interviewed, and it doesn't mean that I don't have experience in machine learning. It means that I don't have experience with their specific models. I interviewed with Twitter. I'm in the recommender system team. They wanted people with the no recommender system. It's an entire other field of machine learning. But they expect you to know it in detail. And then I interviewed with Facebook. And they want you to know everything about binary trees, complete trees, traversing a trees, like the software engineering aspect of things. And all these companies expect you to be extremely qualified at all these things. And it is impossible. So there's a lot of randomness in the process because it's impossible to know it all. But I did get 3 offers out of those 4 companies. And despite the fact that I didn't have experiences in most of their specific field, and how I did it is, so something I recommend, not for internships, you want to have that program, but for full-time, I separated all my interviews by a week. And then I spent a week studying the models for each company. So I knew that at Amazon, I would be interviewed on language models. I spent an entire week reading about language models so I could answer their questions. And then I spent an entire week reading for a recommender system for Twitter. And then I spent an entire week reading about Facebook, about trees and stuff. So it is really hard in our field because every company wants you to know everything about their specific models. They care less about what experience you have than like what if you know what they know, but you can study for it. You can prepare. And that's why I told you, for instance, read the description carefully, because it gives you a lot of information about what to prepare for. Also, before interviewing for Amazon, I actually called a bunch of my friends at Amazon, and I told them I was going to interview, and they told me a bunch of models to prepare for. And then I called my friends at Uber, and I was like, what should I prepare for Uber? And they told me what I should read for Uber. I didn't have contacts at Twitter, but they did publish papers, so I read their papers. And so that's why I'm telling you guys, internship is the easiest entry door, because we would never ask you those things for internships, but for full-time, that's what we expect. And so it is really hard, but knowing that it's hard is I think a big part of the battle, because you can now prepare for it.
Great. That was really helpful. And I'm sure that everyone who participated today got a lot out of this talk. I'm sure all of us would also be like going back and taking a look at our resumes again. And thank you so much for the networking and job search advice.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, guys. Thanks again for inviting me, for, you know, organizing this chapter. I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. And so, yeah, I hope we'll stay in touch. I wish you the best in your employment search. It is a tough world out there, but you are now, you now know some of the tricks that most people don't know. And so hopefully will help you, it will help you prepare. All right, guys, then I will leave you. Have a good day. Bye.